everybody, it's me, Margaret, and look at this baby blanket I just made. Isn't it cute? Hope you can see it. It's a free pattern by 𝖼𝭚n's, I think it is. I made a mistake right off the bat. It's Plymouth yarn, not 𝖼𝭚n's, and it is free. It says with yarn purchase, but that's not true. This is just a very old pattern, and apparently that's what they were doing for some promotion or whatever. It is free right now. I'm going to put a link in the description box below so that you can see this if you want to. I'll link the description box below. There's a lot of purling on it. I suppose you could adjust the pattern so that you could make it more knitting than purling, but it's very simple. And I used some cotton yarn for this. I'm going to put the type of yarn that I used in the description box, pop's picture on the screen or something. It was great yarn, and it's inexpensive too. I think I got it from Love Crafts and on sale at that, so that was really good. And I know, I can hear you right now, subscribers. Y'all are saying, where have you been? Well, funny thing about being a YouTuber, you have a weird relationship with your viewers. When you watch somebody a long time, you feel like you know them. And once upon a time, somebody said, you live the life that I wish I had. And that was so sweet, except for the fact that I had to remind her that you don't see all of our lives when you watch people on YouTube. And I know this because I am you. I watch a lot of people on YouTube that I feel like I know, but there are plenty parts of their lives that you don't know. And I have a lot of family issues that are going on right now with some aging situations, and it's been very, very, very difficult. So understand that as happy as I may appear when the camera turns on, there are plenty times when I have struggles, just like everybody else. And I have been going through some struggles. So, without going into great detail on that, I do have some interesting things to talk about today. Now, one of them happens to be me stumbling across the internet, and I found this comment or this blog post about knit terminology, or the slang for knitting. And a lot of it, of course, is interchangeable with crochet. And so I thought, as I looked through it, some of it was very familiar to me, and some of it was very foreign to me. And I thought, you know what, I wonder how many other people are very comfortable with all of these terms. And so I went through them, and I gave my perception on these terms, whether I knew them or not, whether they were foreign or well, here, let me hush and let me show you. So just for fun, let's talk about some of these. Some may be really familiar to you, and some may be new. So some of them I use, some of them I don't. So let's just see how we all fit in. I've zoomed in a little bit so we could see clearer. And we'll take this first one right here, which is all knitter, a knitting marathon or knitting all night. I don't do this. I like my sleep. Write down in the comment section below if that's something that you have done or like to do. FO, now this is finished object. I think we all know this, whether we knit or crochet. And UFO syndrome right here, the urge to start a new knitting project despite many UFOs. You know what? I do that. And if you don't know what a UFO is, they tell you right here. It's an unfinished object. And I think that's probably a common one for all of us. Now, I had never heard this one, which is nitpicking. First of all, I don't dread weaving in my ends. I kind of feel it. It's like a feeling of accomplishment to me, so I really like this, but I never use that term nitpicking for that. Procrastinating right down here, knitting when you should be doing something else. Ooh, I do that for sure, but I've never used this term, so let me know if you do it. Here's something, KIP, knit in public, and that is something that I do. Doesn't bother me in the least. I don't ever use this KIP because I don't write it, but yeah, that's me. And then continuing over here, this was funny to me, a body bag. That's where the UFOs are stored, and then it tells you to see pigs down here. Projects in grocery sack. Now, I've been really guilty of putting my projects in grocery sacks, even though I have a whole bunch of project bags that are so cute. It's just whatever's quickest, you know what I mean? I've never used the term pigs, though, or body bag for that matter. So again, let me know if you use these things. All right, so let us move our things down a little bit over here. Right here at this blue flashing, that's when yarn creates color pools that stripe like lightning. If we look over here, this one looks a lot like that. It kind of flashes a light lightning. And this is another version. This is crochet, so that could help you see how that might do like that. And then we have pooling, which over here it says when color in variegated yarn pools together in bunches. And I think this would be a great example of that right there. Not to be confused with planned pooling. Now this is where we choose where we want those colors to end up, and this is more of a natural way the colors end up with no planning. And then on the end here they have puddling, blotches of colored and variegated yarn. I don't really know how that differs from, say, pooling or whatever, but you do know that when we have the different types of yarn, variegated yarn, it will do strange things, so keep that in mind. Okay, whip. That is a work in progress. That's something we use all the time, isn't it? So I do use that. Then we have HOTN, which is hot off the needles. I have heard this before, but I don't necessarily use that because, again, I don't participate in any groups where I do need to do a lot of writing like that. Squishy mail, yarn delivery. I know what this is, but it's not a term that I use exactly. But that would be like a knit crate, and as a matter of fact, I've got one coming up to show you after this. Okay, here's something. KUI, knitting under the influence. Now, I do drink, I enjoy a glass of wine or whatever, but I can't say that I'm ever knitting while I do that. So this is really not anything that I do, but I could see where that would cause you some problems. Now here's something that I really do a lot. Netflix, and this is knitting while streaming shows on Netflix, Prime, Hulu, etc. I call it binge watching with my knitting. I don't ever use the term Netflix, but probably should. That's kind of a clever little word right there, but there you go. Now this is familiar. KAL is a knit along. You may see it as CAL if you're more prone to crochets, and then a mystery knit along. That would be what that is. And that's when you're making something but you don't actually know what the finished product is going to look like. So that's kind of interesting. Have I ever done this? No, I've never done one of those before. So I kind of would tend not to do that because I'm not going to put my effort into something I don't know what it is. All right, so we're moving up here to stash, which is something we're probably all familiar with, and that's merely your collection of yarn or anyone else's collection of yarn. And then destash would be when you sell or trade unwanted yarn, and I want to add giveaway to that as well, whether you donate it or give it to a fellow knitter or crocheter. So that's reducing your stash in some way. Now this term right here, SABLE, stash acquisition beyond life expectancy. I have heard this as stable, and I either misheard it or I think it's because the stash, the ST right there. So either way, that's what it means, and most of us probably are SABLE, stable, whatever you want to call it, because we tend to buy that yarn. OTN. Now, I've never used this term, but it means on the needles, and probably off the needles as well, but whatever. And then tink. Now, this is a good one right here. I remember thinking how cute this was when I learned it. Tink is knit spelled backwards, and the reason you do this is because you will often knit in reverse when you're correcting a mistake. That means you just do the opposite in order to get it off the needle so you can redo it again. So this is a term that I do use, and I do all the time. Now, SEX, Stash Enhancement Experience, I've never used this term. Again, I don't write it. I don't even call it this. I just mean that I went shopping for yarn, so whatever. So let's move to this other side here, and we have hiberknitting. Now, I am guilty of hiberknitting. It's something I like to do, retreat into my own world of knitting, usually when I am watching Netflix or binge watching, or, you know, whatever you want to call that, Netflixing. I have never used this term though, but I am guilty of doing this. PhD is projects half done, and my word, do I do this all the time. Sometimes I'll pick them up and finish them later, and sometimes I won't. Okay, knit trauma. Now this says it's the urge to buy more patterns yarn despite multiple projects half done. I will do this for sure, but I have never used this term. Okay, local yarn store, that is a very, or yarn shop, that's a very common one. So LYS, I do hear that a lot, and will even use that term myself. So local yarn shop owner, I don't ever use that, and actually I don't know anyone who owns a yarn shop, sadly. Okay, vanilla. This is a term that simply means a simple pattern. There's a pair of socks, a sock pattern called a vanilla socks, and they're just a simple, good pattern, easy one to start with, and I have used this term before. Amigurumi, I guess it would be abbreviated like this, and that's when you do the toys, and so yes, I know that. Yes, I've done that. I'm not very good at it, but it is something that I do enjoy seeing people do. Okay, so here we go with another familiar one. Oh, I messed up. Okay, here's another familiar one, and that is to frog. And that's to rip out when you've made a mistake. And of course, the reason why we call it frog is because we rip it, you know, like a frog. Ribbit, get it? So that is something I not only say a lot, but I do it a lot. Yarn bomb. This is knitted or crocheted street art. I'll insert a picture so you can see that. Now here's something I've never heard of. All right, that's a toad, where you have a trashed object abandoned in disgust. Never used the term, never heard the term, but I have definitely done that before, that's for sure. Here's something that I am myself, and that's by Stitchable. That's a person who knits and crochets, and so that's me, and I have used that term as well. Now here's one right here, yarn barf. And this is a very limiting definition. It says a big wad of yarn that comes out of the center of a ball or skein. Yes, that's true, but I've also heard yarn barf used to mean any kind of mess of yarn. Okay, this might be if you get some donated to you from some friend's grandmother, or whether you have frogged something right here and you didn't carefully lay out your yarn as you were frogging and you created this big mess. I think yarn barf would be better explained as anything that you have to use your two hands to untangle. That's my definition, at least. Okay, now this is cute. This is cute right here. It's called Knitty Litter. And you know the debris that collects around the home when one knits or crochets? You know, all the little ends that you clip off or something like that. That would be Knitty Litter. That's cute. I've never used that term, never heard that term, but I will use that term. That's adorable. Okay. Crafticism, which is basically activism centered around a craft. And, you know, you see this a lot on Ravelry. You do things that represent something that you're supporting. I donate a lot. I guess that would be considered it. I don't know, but there's that. Okay, let's move this down a little bit, or up a little bit, however you want to see that. And here we have a Lifeline. Now this is pretty specific to knitting, although I imagine there could be a time in crochet when we want to use that. Running a line of yarn through your active stitches used as a recovery point. And this will keep the yarn from coming off or you can easily load it back onto your needles. So yes, I've used that. I used the term. I used the Lifeline. It's awesome. Okay, CIP, socks in progress. I've never used this term. I do know what it means, but I rarely have socks in progress. There was a time when I was really trying hard to knit socks. I enjoyed them, and then I got off of it for some reason. And that makes me sad because I want to get back on it. So I would like to make some more socks.
And I want to throw in one more that's left off this list, and that's yarn chicken. Not in the context of a chicken made of yarn, but rather that game we all play when we're wondering if we have enough yarn to finish the project. So here's an example of when you win yarn chicken, and here's an example of when you lose yarn chicken.
And talking about squishy mail, do you like my shirt? I got my shirt in some squishy mail too. I do have some knit crate to talk about, but first of all, this is the bag. It was a knit crate pattern a few months ago, and I had started the crochet. It's a crochet bag, and I started the pattern and was not really enjoying it all that much, but I said, you know what, I'm just going to finish it, and I did, and it turned out to be a really great bag. Can you see in there? I don't even think that's important that you see in the bottom. But anyway, it is kind of a flat bottom bag. How can I show that part? Anyway, it's really nice. But what I did wrong was sew the arms wrong. I sewed them like a shirt straps. I should have put one strap on this side and one strap on this side. And for some reason, I just felt compelled to put them like this, which is not the way you do bags. I was thinking grocery sack. You see, it does look like a grocery sack, but that's not the way I should have done it. And I just wasn't paying attention, I guess, because when you close it and throw it over your shoulder, you know, it's supposed to be flat like that when you hold it over your shoulder, but I sewed the straps on wrong, so now it's like that, but it's okay. But it's a great pattern, and I would recommend it. I love the stitch on it. I think it's kind of unique, so if you wanted to try that, I will link that below. It is a paid-for pattern though, and usually I do free stuff, but that one's worth it. Now, talking about more recent knit crates, and that is what we have here. It's called Vitilana Oasis, and it's a mix of 50% alpaca and 25% of a Peruvian highland / merino wool, and 25% of Surrey alpaca. So it doesn't specify. Remember, there's two types of alpaca. We talked about that in another video.
So it appears that, quote, there is only one species of alpaca, but two fleece types, often referred to as breeds. They are the ⴜᴜʀ and Surrey alpacas. The ⴜᴜᴀ fleece type is commonly described as looking like a teddy bear, and the Surrey fleece type as looking like dreadlocks.
Oh, and by the way, I was corrected about my pronunciation on that. There is a Spanish type pronunciation, but I looked it up before I said it out loud.
So I'm at a site called How to Pronounce. It's a pronunciation dictionary, and you go over here and you got ⴜᴜᴀ. You press this little sound button,
ⴜᴜᴀ,
and you hear ⴜᴜᴀ.
ⴜᴜᴀ,
Come down here and it gives you some other pronunciations.
ⴜᴜᴀ,
Same one there.
Wakaya.
Wakaya. And there's another one.
Wakaya.
Wakaya.
Hayakaya.
There are apparently two pronunciations, and I chose the English pronunciation of it. And I imagine it would be something like when we're watching the Olympics and they call a country like Spain, España, that's how they say it. But we say Spain. So I imagine that word is, you know, you have options of pronunciations. I don't know, but regardless, I did make an effort. I tried to look it up. So there are two types of alpaca. It doesn't specify the first portion, that first 50%. It doesn't tell us which one it is, but it does specify the Surrey alpaca for that last 25%. All this to say, alpaca is one of my favorites because it has this gorgeous drape and it's very soft. So, as you can imagine, I really like this. Did I tell you what it was? It's DK weight. Did I say that? Yeah, so we got the 2 skeins of the Dʀᴇᴜ. And these were all the colors that it came in. I got that darker color. I never request my colors. I think I've told you that before, but you can. And you don't have to be a member of Knit Crate to purchase these yarns, as a matter of fact. And here are the patterns that came with it. You have a knit pattern and a crochet pattern always. And then even though I'm not a member of the sock club, the book comes with all the patterns. So here is the knit sock pattern and the crochet sock pattern that you can do. Where is the sock? These were the sock yarns that were available this month as well. And again, you can order these without being a member. If you want to join, you get 20% off your first crate by using my code SHEEP20. And this is the inspiration picture for next month's yarn, or well, for July's yarn. They're backed up because of COVID and staffing and shipping and everything you can imagine, but those are nice bright colors, so we'll see what comes about for that one. So while I was editing this, we had an interesting Knit Crate email that just popped in. And first of all, the first thing that caught my eye was the huge sale announcement, and this is whether or not you are a member, I think. First of all, the July yarn, what we were just talking about, it's on its way, and that's awesome. So that, you know, there have been troubles because of COVID and whatnot. August yarn is on its way too, so they're going to be catching up. And note that they said this is earlier than it's happened in months, so that's really good to know. There's some behind the scenes changes, and I don't know what that's going to be, but it's going to include improvements to the website, blah 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 blah. But the big thing is they're going to have a new fulfillment center, so that means they're having a moving sale, 60% off, in addition to your 50% member discount. So if you're a member, you're going to already have 50% off. And if you're not a member, there's going to be a sale as well. And then of course you'll use the code moving sale right there at checkout to get your 60% off. So that's pretty good to know. It's going to run until August 31st at midnight. And remember too, the processing times for orders may take longer than usual because they're having all the health and safety and delivery issues and all that kind of stuff. So that's really good to know. And if you're not a member and you would like to be, you can use my code SHEEP20 to get 20% off of your first box. So there's that. But lots of good yarn on sale, so you might want to look into that. And something else that I got with the little knick-knack is this cooler thing. Now this is another one of those things, depending on where you're from, this could have a different type of name. We call these huggies or huggers and some people call them koozies, and I don't know. What do you call it? Write it down below what you call these things, but it's a can cooler basically. Ooh, I just lost my glasses. And this one says, sip 1, stitch 2, repeat, just as if it were a pattern, which I thought was adorable, and I do use these a lot. I do try to drink more water. And one of the ways I can get my water down more often is by a regular LaCroix, or it doesn't have to be LaCroix, but this one happens to be. This is LaCroix Pure. It's just water, fizzy water. I remember when I was traveling to Europe, they would specify, we'd say we want some water, and then they would have to ask you, do you want sparkling or still? And I always want still water until recently. And recently I have begun to love the plain sparkling water, which is what this is right here. And I think that's so funny. Maybe because back then when we were traveling, I remember Russia was really big on the sparkling waters, and I could not stand the taste of it. And I think it was because I was a big Diet Coke drinker back then, but I haven't had a soft drink in years. Hey, that's another one of those regional words. Do you say pop, soda? We say soft drinks, or most often we might even say Coke. Do you want a Coke? Yeah, which kind? I have Sprite and Dr. Pepper. So whatever, that's a regional thing, but I don't drink those anymore at all. So maybe my tastes have changed, and that's why I love this so much now. I don't know, but it's great. I don't necessarily like the flavored ones of these, although my kids do. They just kind of taste watered down. I don't know, I just don't get a big charge out of the flavored versions, but there's that. Now, as I sit here looking at the mess that is this desk right here, I knew you couldn't see it, so I really didn't bother cleaning it up. But I will show you the mess over there. I have had the good old Cameo out, and I have been going to town with some different projects that I've been doing here. Some for the sick relatives that I told you about. I had wanted him to have something to open, so I got a bunch of well, actually I bought these envelopes, and I put a bunch of little trivia, interesting trivia, so they'd have something to open every day, and was in the process of doing that, and making some interesting cards. This is actually an accordion card that will, you pull it up out of the envelope and it hangs. Looks kind of like a little mobile, but of course you wouldn't use it for that. And you'll see a lot of this vinyl that I've got out. What was I doing with this vinyl? Well, I'm in the process of making this bathroom a crazy funny bathroom, just to be different. For example, I put some vinyl right there. Oh, I showed you this picture right there a while back that I got, but I thought that this statement right here, "Be the change you wish to see in the world" by Gandhi, is actually appropriate for that. And then I have made some little vinyl funnies to go over here, but this is my, well, I also did that too. It says "Be unique" and it's upside down. But look down here. See, you've got a little mice village down here. And when you close the door, there's the cat. Now this just came in today, and it's a toilet paper holder. You'll see in this bathroom we have no cabinets, so there's no place to really store some extra toilet paper. And I ran across this and had to get it. You put it on the wall some kind of way, and when you put the rolls of toilet paper in it, it looks like the sheep's fleece, which is just funny. So I'll figure out where I want to hang that in a little while. But yeah, I've just been busy being silly. And I've also been thinking ahead to Christmas, and that's what all of this is. Nothing of this is actually usable. This is me and my special relationship challenged self trying to figure out how to make this card on my Silhouette software. This is what I'm trying to make. I'm having a hard time getting the lighting right. I hope you can see it. But it's actually like a booklet. You're supposed to put something in these little holes right here, and then you open it up and you have pockets where you can put stuff. And I'm thinking this will be the 12 days of Christmas for my kids this year. You know, they are grown. Yes, I understand that. And I don't have grandchildren. But it's a tradition left over from when they were little bitty. They just had something they could open. You know, sometimes it was 12 days, sometimes it was 24, sometimes whatever. Their grandmother started it, and then when she got so many grandchildren, she had to stop because it was breaking her. And it would be something small that they could open. Last year I got a bunch of organic snacks for them, and that was really fun because all my kids are very good eaters except for Thomas, and he is 20 and still in that phase where, you know, I'm going to eat whatever I want, but eventually he will begin to let the seeds grow that I've planted in there. We don't eat a lot of chemicals. We eat very clean. We eat a lot of vegetables. Anyway, to make a long story short, they didn't want, my big kids don't want a lot of junk. On Amazon, I bought these big packs of a selection of organic snacks. Yes, it still had sugar, and no, they don't eat a lot of sugar, but it was kind of fun for them to have at least clean sugar items. So this year I thought, I'm not going to do the same thing. I'll need to do something else. So I'll have to think of something that's kind of like, I don't know, anything from cartoons to tea, maybe gum, just a collection of little things to put in a booklet. So I was looking online to see if there was anything I could just buy, an SGV file that I could just buy that was already made similar to this, and there were some, but they were just more complicated. I ran across this one lady who did not use her cutting machine. She just had a piece of 12 by 12 paper. She did a series of creases, made one cut, and then she folded it like this. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's so easy. I think I'll just do that. Except for when it came to the cutting of the holes and making sure that you cut this. Let me show you what it looks like out one big piece. Making sure you cut this centerpiece straight and all that kind of stuff. So I said, that really needs to be a cutting machine file. And I thought, surely somebody smarter than me had already stepped up and created that file, but I couldn't find one if they had. So I decided to figure that out on my own. So while I do have a silhouette, I can share this SGB file. Oh, I mean SVG, did I say that right? I can share that file. It can be used on any kind of cutting machine that can read an SVG. And I'll share that with you after I get it fixed. There's a few more things that I need to alter on it to make it a little bit better, a little bit cleaner. I want to put instructions on it and that sort of thing. So I can share this file with you and also direct you to the instructions for what to do if you don't have a cutting machine, because this is a really cute little idea. Now this one only has 8 pockets, so I will make another one, cut it in half, put 12 pockets on there, or I don't know what I'm going to do. It's too soon. But right now, because of the place where my head is right now, I am doing anything small that can allow me to retreat. I just like to be calm and quiet right now. And that's, you know, thinking ahead and thinking about Christmas and things like that that make me smile are great activities to do when I'm down in the dumps. You know, another thing I've been doing a lot of is yoga, spending a lot of time on the yoga mat. I love stretching of any kind, love yoga. I can't stand the real hard exercises where I have to sweat and stuff. Yeah, I know that it's important that you should do that, but I just don't like that. So right now I'm giving myself a reprieve to lay off of that, and I'm increasing my yoga, which is a great form of exercise, don't get me wrong. I don't sweat quite as much as I do with the other ones, but it just makes me feel so much better when I finish a good yoga workout. But now I don't want to talk about that anymore, and thank you for the people who have inquired as to where I was. That's very kind of you. I think I'm back. I'm not sure, but I'm still doing my crafting, and I'm still interested in what you have to say. It's just I can't get the videos out as often as I was doing, but we'll see. Maybe I'm back on track now. I don't know. But in the meantime, thanks for hanging out with me as always, and I'll talk to you again. Bye.
So I'm going to leave you with images of this cute little jackrabbit in the neighbor's yard, which Bentley was completely oblivious to, my little old man. But that rabbit is huge.